Dear friends, I would like this morning to talk about parties, and to talk about them theologically, not politically. I think we can be confident that Jesus knew that he was at a party. Consider what happens. Jesus is with family and friends at a wedding banquet. This is very likely to have been in a priestly home due to the presence of the stone water jars. Unlike jars made out of clay, stone water jars don't have to be destroyed if they come into contact with something unclean, which meant that, although they were expensive to make, they were a good long-term investment for a priestly family who had duties to fulfill within the community. Now, it's the responsibility of the bridegroom to provide the wine for the wedding feast, and it would have been a source of great shame to the bridegroom to have run out. So Jesus is rescuing the host from such embarrassments, and doing so in such a way that there is no prospect of running out again. There is a sense of abundance and joy here. Consider just how much water there was in these 6 jars. To give a modern analogy, it's the equivalent of 3 or 4 wheelie bins filled with wine. So the Bible is clear that wine is a source of joy and a gift from God. It's also clear that overindulgence is to be avoided. There is a happy medium between the extremes of not enough and too much. Sometimes it is essential for someone not to touch wine. In the Bible, they're called Nazarites, people who have vowed never to consume wine in order to pursue their own spiritual path. Jesus was not one of those. He was a Nazarene, not a Nazarite. In fact, he acquired a reputation as something of a party animal. John the Baptist came and followed a very austere path, living on locusts and wild honey in the desert, and he was criticized for having a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and Jesus is criticized for being a glutton and a drunkard. In other words, there are those who are without joy, who will criticize without consistency, who are marked by a spirit of accusation, which is how we are to understand the theology of a party. For the party is where everyone is welcomed and embraced with joy, where they are offered food and wine, where there can be dancing and singing. A party, a wedding banquet. The vision held out to us of heaven, as set out in the book of Revelation at the end of the Bible, is of a wedding feast, of a party, of a time of celebration and exuberant joy. Now, there's a spiritual current in all religions, often called Puritanism, which doesn't know what to do with such joy and seeks to eliminate it, as when Cromwell banned Christmas in the 17th century. Such a spirit is a very long way from Jesus. Do we have the capacity to celebrate, or has it been driven from us by all the stresses and complications of our world? This is why, when we come together for worship, to come into the presence of Jesus, we do so with this symbolic meal of bread and wine. It's quite literally a foretaste of the heavenly banquet, where we shall be welcomed in with great joy, and where there is no prospect of the wine ever running out. It's a connection that goes right back to Jesus himself, who built his ministry out of table fellowship with sinners and the excluded. We inherit the feast from him, and it reminds us of who he is and the joy that we are called to share in. So may the joy of the bridegroom be with us, and may we be enabled to share the flavors of the new wine of the kingdom between ourselves and with our wider world. Amen.